Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Fire in the hole. Okay.
It's so nice to see all of you guys here. My name is Tessa Richards. I'm the president of the Honor Student Association. To get things started, before we do anything else, I would like to give a huge thank you to the Davidson Honors College, the Chemistry Department, the Office of the Provost, the Student Involvement Network, and the Event Planning Services. Those are the ones that have made this all possible tonight. And of course, my Honor Student Association for being willing to do all this with me. You guys are a little crazy, but I appreciate you. So, when I began my freshman year, I had no idea what I was doing. And I struggled through my first couple classes, and they were interesting, but nothing was really clicking with me. Nothing was very fun. Is this what all of my classes are going to be like, is all I could think. That all changed when I sat down in Urey Lecture Hall for my last class of the day, Chemistry 121. In walked who I could only assume was the professor, but he didn't look like any of my other professors. This man was wearing a floor-length wizard robe with a pointed hat. Alrighty. Once he set down his box of materials, the projector was turned on to a slide titled, "Welcome to Potions 121. Was I in the right class? This man is the famous Garon Smith, or as most people know him, Gee Whiz. His wizard getup was certainly a great way to get the class's attention, as well as the magic trick he performed at the end of the lecture, complete with a magic spell and finger wiggling. The fun didn't stop at the first day, though. Gee Whiz continued to make the whole semester interesting, from blowing things up in the lecture hall and making liquid nitrogen Cheetos, some of the reactions you'll see tonight, to giving little tidbits about bomb-sniffing bumblebees and how snowflakes are formed. Gee Whiz grew up in Colorado and completed his bachelor's degree in environmental biology at UC Boulder. During college, Gee Whiz tested out his chemistry skills as a snowmaker at a nearby ski hill. He then went on to get his PhD from Colorado School of Mines. Gee Whiz started working at U of M in 1991, making this his 24th year with our chemistry department. Quite an accomplishment. Gee Whiz teaches multiple courses at the university, including Introduction to College Chemistry, Chemistry 121, a History of Science Fiction's Films course, an Introduction to Honors course, and an Environmental Policy Practicum. From January 7th to July 9th of last year, Gee Whiz traveled to New Zealand to do science demonstrations in area schools, traveling the whole country to show kids his charisma for chemistry. Not only did they love his shows, but many schools were added onto the tour after finding out about the crazy American wizard. He even got invited back to do more shows this summer after the spring semester is done here. In addition to teaching his classes, Gee Whiz has served as the ASUM advisor since 2007. He also chairs the local Board of Health, the Air Pollution Control Board, and the Water Quality District Board, and is the board's liaison to the Air Quality Advisory Council. So he's quite a busy guy. We're lucky to have him tonight. You would be hard-pressed to find another professor that is as incredibly passionate about teaching as Gee Whiz. There's something about learning from a professor that is excited about their subject. It starts to grow on you and makes you enjoy the class more and more. Gee Whiz has shown countless students that chemistry can be interesting and even fun. The university is losing one of the best professors it has ever known. It will be a sad day tomorrow in the Social Sciences building when Gee Whiz finishes his last Chem 121 lecture, but we will always remember him as the man in the wizard's robe with his magic pointed hat. Without further ado, the great Gee Whiz.
Am I live? All right. I know that President Engstrom is out of town, so I knew that I could walk out of Main Hall without him objecting. So I'm thrilled to see so many people come out for a chemistry program. Usually you say chemistry in a conversation, and everybody goes, whoa. But I've been fascinated with it my whole life. I always wanted to grow up and be a wizard. Nobody told me that you couldn't be a professional wizard. So I just had to invent the job for myself. What I'm going to do is share with you good friends that have made for a fabulous career. So with a cart full of plastic bins, I have been all over the world. So you can be a professional wizard. Now, I always start my wizard show by trying to do some magic to prove that I have wizardly powers. And for that, I use my ink spell. And this is what I used the first day of classes in 121. And I say that when I go to Hogwarts to substitute for the potions professor, that they have me teach this to the second-year students. And I carefully measure out my ingredients. Wizardry is really just another type of cooking. You just don't eat all your recipes. This one would not taste good, I guarantee you. Now, if I have made these correctly, I can mix them together, pronounce the magic spell, and then use my wizard powers to turn them into ink. So let's see if I mix them up just right. Pour them together, and then say the spell. When east is east, and west is west, and one flies over the cuckoo's nest. When red is red and pink is pink, make this water black as ink. And then I rub with my wizard fingers, and it turns into ink. Okay? I don't know how many thousands of times I've done that, and it's still fun. It's also tricky. It doesn't always work just the way I want it to. In fact, when the provost had me do a big public lecture, I had forgotten to put one of my ingredients in, and it did not turn black. Woo! So how did that work? Was that magic? No, it's science. What do you think? You think it had to do with time? You must have seen my show before. I came to your class. Would you like to come up here and help me do it again? So let's see here. I have to protect eyes. I have safety glasses on, but whoops. You only get one set of eyes. So we take care of those. Most of my things are designed to be safe to go into classrooms. Not too toxic and not too hazardous. So let's mix up another batch here. What you have to be able to do this trick is count to 17 while you're talking to the audience. But it's really not that hard. You just design a spell and figure out how much time that takes. My spell takes 11 seconds. So what I really have to do is count to 6 while I'm talking to the audience. And then when I finish my spell and rub my hand, it's about ready to change. Although the timing is a little bit temperamental. It changes with temperature. It changes with concentration. So sometimes my timing isn't so good. And what's your name? Michaela? And which school do you go to? Pardon? Still in here. Lowell? Okay. Are you in Jesse's class? Oh, I came for Jesse's birthday. I get to go to schools all over the place. In fact, next week I'm going to Paxson and Lewis and Clark and down to Hamilton to the museum. Okay, so let's come out here. Got your eyes covered, right? We're going to pour them together. We're going to count this time out loud so you can tell when 17 is coming. And when we get to about 15, you can wiggle your fingers at Michaela. Hopefully the ink will change color instead of Michaela, right? Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Whoa! Thank you very much. I better give you a wizard card for being my assistant here. There you go.
What is it?
What is it? The potions are potassium iodate in the first bottle, and in the second bottle it's sodium sulfite, a little bit of sulfuric acid, and 3 pellets of ghost poop. That's what I call the packing peanuts that are made out of potato starch, because that's what helps make the color change. Iodine and starch make that color. In fact, you may have been in a nutrition class and tested foods for their starch content by putting some iodine solution on a slice of potato, and it changed color, proving that there was starch. Now, most of you probably haven't seen this variation on it that I'm going to do. I don't do it very often because it takes a couple hours to cook up and it uses a lot of chemicals. But it's a fascinating variation on the clock reaction, the iodine clock reaction. It's called the Briggs-Rauscher reaction, after a couple of high school teachers that came up with the recipe. I call it storytelling water. It has starch in it, it has potassium iodate, but it has some other stuff in it too. When we dump all 3 solutions together, it begins to tell a story. One clear day, the golden sunshine was shining, but there was the dark forest that Goldilocks wanted to go visit. So she pushed through the trees, and up ahead she saw a clearing. There was a cabin at the far side, but the windows were dark. She opened the door, turned on the lights, but the bedroom was still dark. See, isn't that kind of fun? This is called an oscillating reaction. The first one was discovered about 1915. And when it was reported in the literature, they said, I wonder what he was smoking. Because nobody could reproduce it. It took about 40 years for it to be reproduced. Now there are a number of these known, and actually, the person who hired me to come to the UM, who's Dr. Dickfield, I don't know if he's here tonight, he studied this kind of reaction and did a lot of his career figuring out how this stuff works. Isn't that kind of fun? It will just cycle. There's actually 2 mechanisms that are at play. One of them makes the dark stuff, one of them makes the light stuff. The one that wins is dependent on the iodide ion concentration, and it fluctuates back and forth. In a couple minutes, it'll get stuck in the dark phase. Like I say, I think it's fun to see that oscillating reaction. All right, let's see here. I think next we'll do a freezing spell. Oh, looks like I've had a freezing spell in transit. Sometimes vibrations on the sidewalk make this solution freeze. So we're going to take this solution and using a magic spell make it freeze. Is this hot or cold? You want to touch it with your hand? Is it hot or cold? Cold? Look at a couple. Don't walk close to the speaker with your microphone. Is it hot or cold? Hot? It's about room temperature. Uh-oh, it started to freeze.
What the?
I should have left the top on. So now I have 2 of these frozen. Shouldn't freeze if I've got the top on. We'll try this one, see if it's cold too. I've seen you at Meadow Hill, right? Yeah. There we go. So if I'm going to freeze this, I'd like it to behave according to my spells, not just decide to do it on its own. I'm going to use the spell with 3 languages. Much of it is in Latin. Science all used to be done in Latin so that the common rabble couldn't figure out how simple it was.
That must have been hard.
They still use Latin in biology to name plants and animals. You all are Homo sapiens.
What the?
Latin for thinking ape. And doctors and nurses use use Latin. If I went in and said, oh, it hurts when I sit down, they say, gee whiz, I think you've got a problem with your gluteus maximus, right? So there's still quite a bit of Latin around. Some of my spell is in Spanish. My older daughter majored in Spanish right here at UM. She's now teaching in Spanish as a Peace Corps teacher in the Dominican Republic. And I got to go visit her in January, and she had to help me out because I don't speak Spanish. I know enough Latin that I can figure some of it out. The rest of the spell is in English, so it goes medulla oblongata, et echinodermata, chiliana cheese enchilada, help gee whiz freeze this water. And then I snap my fingers and say, freeze. Now you can see the ice forming. See, it's supposed to follow my commands.
Can I do it?
Can you do it?
Can I do it?
Well, you have to figure out how it works. How does it work?
Can I do it? I don't know. Your magic?
You've got to make a hypothesis, a guess at how it works.
You gotta say the spell, then you gotta split your fingers, and it takes like time. And
You've got to say the spell, flick your fingers, and then it takes time. So there we have a fairly complicated hypothesis. Let's try it.
Barometric compression.
Barometric compression is your idea. Okay. Say something magical. Abracadabra. Okay, snap your fingers. I bet it's not going to do anything. It needs something to help it. It found it on its own when I was walking around too long with the lid off. It needs a seed crystal. What I did was I dipped my finger in seed crystals when I picked the first one up. But in walking around, the little breezes out here must have wafted one right in. So if I give you one little seed crystal, just pinch one of those between two fingers. Now say your abracadabra and drop it in. Oh, do you see where the seed landed? Now it's freezing. Cool. Actually, it's warm. Is it hot? Yeah, we'll pass these around. This is the reaction that's used in those little hand warmers that have a clicker. It's about 120 degrees, which is just a nice hand warming temperature. You can pass it around the audience.
Can I drink it?
See that one? We have somebody over here that would like to try it. Why don't you come up and help? You have a good magic spell? No? Better think up one. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Can you say that? Can you say abracadabra or hocus pocus? Hocus pocus, okay, hold it. Let's get a seed out here. I think it's neat that we're trying to be green. I'm an environmental chemist, and we're powering the sound system by having Chase ride the bike. Let's have a hand for Chase. I was very impressed that we could do that. There's a seed crystal. Turn around so everybody can see it. Say hocus pocus. No, you dropped it in. Oh, yes, you did. In fact, you dropped two little pieces in because you can see a spot where each of them landed. Very good. Is it frozen? You bet. Take it over so these people can feel the heat. Luckily, it's a nice, warm evening. The great thing about this one is that I can take these back to the lab, put them on the hot plate, melt them again, and I can take them to Paxton School next week. Okay? This next one is better if we can turn the lights down. Somebody want to turn the sun down for a couple moments here? Although this is one of my best ones in a dark lecture hall. So I always get a round of applause with this one. I'd like to start the Montana School of Wizardry and Magic. Maybe since I'm retiring, I'll have time to put together a proposal to do that. Actually, I'm teaching a 2-week wizard course in June for high school students in the Schwanke Summer Institute right over there at the Davidson Honors College. And after 2 weeks, they put on a wizard show instead of me. And the advisor, Lori Pengali Drake, says, oh, I hope they don't hurt themselves or set the building on fire. Now, if I'm going to start a wizard academy, I need to sort students into houses. And I don't have a sorting hat. But I have something better. I have a sorting bowl. It's full of sorting fluid, and it's going to change colors according to the house that a student should belong to. So it'll be blue if it's for Ravenclaw. If it's for Hufflepuff, it'll be yellow. I hear some Harry Potter fans out there. If it's if it's Slytherin, it's going to be green, and Gryffindor. Red. Okay. Let's see what we can get here. If to Ravenclaw you're true, have this cauldron show us blue. Blue is hard to see when the sun is out. But if you put your hand there, we do have a blue flame. We always have to tell our students in the lab when they have their Bunsen burners lit and it's daylight out, don't put your hand in it because it's really hot. So we can't see the blue. But the Hufflepuff, for yellow, we can see that. If you belong to Hufflepuff, fill this bowl with yellow stuff. And then the fire would turn yellow, right? And if you were in Slytherin, that's where Snape is from, right? If in Slytherin you're seen, have this cauldron show us green. And we get a nice green fire. And for Harry and Hermione and Ron in Gryffindor, if in Gryffindor you'll bed, change this cauldron now to red. In a dark room, this is much more dramatic, but that's okay. You can see the red fire. We're going to set off some fireworks later, and we're going to do the same sort of trick. We're going to use slightly different chemicals because it's going to burn hotter. But we're going to shoot off 24 artillery shells, one for each year that I've been here. And normally you can't shoot off fireworks in the city, right? All right. I went down and spoke to the fire marshal. He said, oh, we know about you. He said, if you'll come to one of our retirement parties or a Christmas party and entertain us, we'll just waive the fee. So we're going to make me get my money's worth here, right? And there are going to be some colors. We're going to see red and green and yellow. We'll probably see some of this, too. After the students are sorted, the faculty probably want to show off. I like to show off, right? So I'd say, my wizardly might can shape and mold this cauldron into sparks of gold. Oh. And then finally, show these muggles a wizard's might. Fill this bowl with sparks of white. A little hard to see the white sparks unless I put in a little bit more. I can't put a whole lot of this inside because it does make some magnesium oxide smoke. And it has been known to trip the smoke alarm in the chemistry building. I am the great and powerful Gee Whiz. See the smoke? Now, my daughters were in 4-H and always went to 4-H camp up on Loon Lake by Big Fork. they always got campfire detail. Why do you think they got campfire detail? They said, bring some of your dad's powders, right? And they would. Now, if this looks fun to you, with parental supervision, you can go to the fireplace section of places like Walmart and look for funky colored flames. It's got little plastic pouches. You just throw one of the plastic pouches into your campfire or your fireplace, and you can have some of the same sorting colors. All right, let's see. This is a university, and we do some serious stuff here, including we do some mathematics. So if you're going to be a scientist, you also need to do some mathematics, unless you're an organic chemist. There are some organic chemists in the crowd here. They're pot boilers. There's one right there, see? But I have developed something that I'm about ready to put on the market. This is a chemical calculator. It can do arithmetic. You just let the solution read the problem, spray at the bottom. All right. And the answer will magically appear. So, what is your favorite number, 0 to 9? Do you have a favorite number? Or how old are you? 6. We'll put down 6. Okay? So we'll put a 6. And blue shirt, just raise your hand. 8. 6 and 8. We'll try it with 2 digits. 6 and 8. We're going to reverse the digits. I want to put the bigger arrangement on top. So put 8, 6. Now we'll subtract. How good are you at subtracting?
Good.
What's 8 from 6?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You
You have to regroup. That's right. We have to regroup. What's 8 from 16? 8. When I was down in New Zealand, I had to learn how to say the numbers differently. The number between 6 and 8 is 7. And what comes after 9 is 10, right? How about 6 from 7? 1. Okay, you can do subtraction. Let's see how you are at addition. Let's reverse those digits and add them up. What should the answer be?
99.
Ooh, we've got some mathematicians here. I wanted to pick a problem that was pretty easy. So I only kept it to 2 digits, figuring you could figure it out.
Why didn't you do multiplication?
Why didn't I do multiplication?
Vision.
Well, I haven't taught the solution how to do multiplication yet. Did it? We'll let it read the problem. We'll spray at the bottom. Answer is 99.
I know what it is.
Did it do it okay? Should we try a harder one? I should say a more difficult one.
11 June.
My English teacher taught me to say difficult instead of hard. When we're talking about mathematics. All right. I need another number picker. What are you going to give me as a number? Am I going to get too close to that? 7. All right. I don't know if that's going to be big or small. And you're being very polite with a green plaid shirt. 9. And I need one more in the far back next to the rhodamine colored top. 8. No, I just need 1 digit. Oh, we already got 9. 5. All right. 7, 9, 5. Now we'll take these digits, we'll reverse them. 5, 9, 7, and subtract. What's 7 from 5?
You can't do it!
Should we regroup?
Yes, you have to regroup the 7. It's -2.
7 from 15 is
8.
8. All right. 9 from 8 is
Regroup.
regroup. You guys pick terrible numbers. I have to keep regrouping everything. Why don't you pick better numbers? What's 18 minus 9? That's 9. And 5 from 6? 1. Okay. 198. Let's reverse these. 891 and add them up.
I can see your thing written.
You can see the thing written?
Yeah, it's like written in milk.
Yeah.
Don't look so carefully.
You can see it from the side. Even lemon is in milk.
Okay, you can see it.
It's 1,089.
How did I know what numbers to put down there? I didn't pick these numbers.
Yes, you did.
I did not pick these numbers. Should we have it read the problem? They swear that the answer is 1,089.
Told ya.
See, the solution agrees. This was former President Denison's favorite trick. Why? Because at donor meetings, I would tell the group, I am going to make a donation to the University of Montana, and you're going to pick the numbers to figure out what it is. And we would do this trick, and then I'd pull a check out of my pocket for $1,089. Turns out both my daughters went through SPLS scholars, and we're just paying their tuition a little bit at a time, $1,089 at a time, to make sure it's there for somebody else. So how did I know what the answer was going to be? Try it with 4 digits and see what happens. See, now you're going to go try some math. Math can be fun, too. Now, when I was growing up, I had an older sister named Cheryl. She's born in 1944. I was born in 1947. So she's 2 years and 4 months older than I am. She had special privileges because she was older, right? And then I have a younger brother. His name is Colin. He was 5 years younger, smaller than I was, sufficiently so that my mom would say a lot of times, oh, he's the baby. He needs special consideration. I was in the middle. What did I ever get? Any of you middle kids out there? Yeah. We have to live by brain power, right? So we used to fight over everything. We wanted to try to find out who Mom liked best. If I got my turn more than 1 time out of 3, she likes me best, right? So we would fight over everything. And I'd say, hey, I just got 3 turns in a row. I'm on her favorite list. Well, we used to fight over what kind of juice to have. And my sister would see my mom making up the grocery list and say, oh, when you go to the store, when you go to Tieman's Market, why don't you pick up some apple juice? So my mom would pick up some apple juice, bring it home, mix it up. It was usually frozen rather than powdered. It's more like iced tea. And she'd mix it up and bring it to the table. Say, okay, kids, here is your breakfast juice. It's got vitamins and minerals. My sister would say, oh, give me that apple juice. It's not dissolving very quickly. And then she'd get to me and I'd say, that is wimpy looking juice. It's hardly different than water. I could read Garfield right through the whole picture of it. I like Welch's grape juice. It's got that dark purpley color. I put meat on my wizardly bones. And my mom didn't want me to grow up to be a wimpy wizard. So she'd say, well, maybe you better have grape juice. So she'd pour me my grape juice. You don't have a picture like this at home? You must have grown up in a Muggle household. And then my brother, he was the youngest one in the family, as I said, but he was into economics. That's what he studied in undergraduate school, although he now has a graduate degree in counseling and advising and psychology. He's at Fort Lewis College. He would say, you know, I could sell my vote. 2 votes out of 3 wins. Cheryl, if you give me a dime, I will vote for apple juice. Back then, a dime would buy a Coke and a candy bar. Won't anymore. And so he'd get his dime and take his apple juice and drink it on the way to the bank. Now, the next time my mom would be making up the list, my sister would say, oh boy, more apple juice. And my mom would say, it is not your turn, Cheryl. It is Garon's turn. Garon, what do you want? I'd say, you know what I like. I like good old Welch's grape juice. So the whole pitcher would look like grape juice. Except down in New Zealand, they only have white grape juice. I had to change the story into Ribena juice, which is a blackberry juice. So my mom would bring the grape juice to the breakfast table and say, oh, okay, kids, time for your juice. My sister would say, Mom, that's grape juice. Girls wore white blouses to school a lot back then. If I spill that on my blouse, it'll stain it. And so my mom would say, well, maybe you better have apple juice. And I would need my grape juice. No wimpy wizard here. Oh, you know how I do this one too? I'm trying to lift the glasses up so people in the back can see. And that makes it more difficult. How do I do it? What?
I think there's like a connection when you put the cups together that turns the colors.
When I put the cups together, that turns the colors.
Yeah.
Like that?
No, like when you pour it.
When I pour it, where could I hide the secret ingredient?
I don't know, you're a wizard.
I just use evaporated water. Where?
You could hide it in the
In the juice? Well, that's pretty tricky to have the thing that changes its color sitting in the juice while it's staying the same. Right behind him.
in the different cup.
In the different cup. This is an empty glass. Oh, except for that glass-colored liquid at the bottom. That's how it turns into apple juice. It gives off some hissing and steaming. That's concentrated sulfuric acid. You're not supposed to add water into concentrated sulfuric acid. If I make that layer too deep, it will explosively boil like popcorn and throw hot acid all over my audience. So I never use too much.
Try it!
Now my brother hasn't had his turn. He's going to get yet another dime, because when my mom says, Colin, what would you like for your breakfast juice? He'll say, I'd like apple juice. Cheryl, you owe me another dime. And down in New Zealand, they don't call a 10-cent coin a dime. They call it a 10-cent piece, right? So I had to change my story there, too. And there we've got the apple juice again. For you chemists, this is just a little bit of playing with Le Chatelier's principle. I'm perturbing an equilibrium and pushing it back and forth between the two sides. Uh-oh, we had an accident. I get the broken glass picked up. I've got more of these. But we don't want anybody getting into the broken glass.
Touch the ice without the glass.
You can touch the ice without the glass. It's sodium acetate. That's what they put on potato chips to make them taste like salt and vinegar. You can do this trick in another way, and they did it down in New Zealand. When students came to the University of Otago, where I was based, for a visit, they would be given a flask of this solution, and then they put a seed crystal down in a petri dish, and they poured the solution over the top of the crystal, and it grows a crystal tower. It was a contest to see who could grow the tallest crystal tower. It makes a big mess, and you lose most of the chemicals. You can't use them over and over again. That's why I like to do these. But if I'm careful, I can take this back to the lab and reuse that. Now I'm going to do something really cool. I brought a special thermos bottle that's got liquid nitrogen in it. It's part of the air that we breathe. Makes up 78.1% of the air that we breathe. But if you cool it way down, it turns into a liquid. It looks like water, but it's a lot different. It chills the air so much that the air can't hold as much moisture, so we get to see some fog. We'll pour some in this cake pan. See, it just looks like water. You can see the fog. This is like the Missoula Valley overnight. The cold air sinks down into a puddle at the bottom of the valley, and our pollutants can't get out. That's what I work on with the Air Pollution Control Board. If you notice, this fog is not rising like steam off of hot soup or hot cocoa. If I breathe on it and make a lot more of it, you can see the inversion boundary. A lot of times we get warm air on top of the valley and cold air overnight down in the bottom. And anything we release in the way of automobile exhausts, wood stove smoke, we breathe until the sun comes and breaks that inversion. You take your hand, you can actually feel warm here, or you can feel it get cold when you go through that boundary layer. I can show you that this doesn't act like water.
I love this one.
Here's a balloon. What's going to happen if I put the balloon in?
It'll shrink.
It'll
Let the oxygen, it'll get taken out and then
Usually
it'll go
people say,
back
oh, it's
in.
going to pop. This person knows Charles' law, which says that volume is directly proportional to temperature if you express temperature on the Kelvin scale. Gases are little particles bumping around, and as you cool them off, they bump slower and slower, and the volume will shrink. I can push this into the liquid nitrogen, and it's going to shrink smaller and smaller. I hear the speaker trying to growl at me. How's Chase doing? He says, good. He's going to school in Scotland shortly. He's been on ASUM Senate for a number of years. He did a foreign exchange semester in Switzerland. So that's part of that global leadership initiative and global experiences that UM likes to promote. And if you want to do it, we can usually make it happen, right? So this balloon is getting really small. If I push it in, I don't want to get my fingers in there too much. My fingers would not get small. What would they get? They get frozen. And when the water in your fingers freezes, it expands into little needle-shaped crystals, and then when it thaws, it's finger mush. Not a good idea. See? It's like a taco.
And then it expands.
There's a little bit of liquid air in the bottom. This is very brittle. It usually tends to crack. But if I let it warm up again, the volume will come back up. Looks like a pumpkin, doesn't it?
Looks like a giant potato.
And it's a little bit smaller after.
Well, it's not completely warmed up. There's a little bit of liquid air running around in the bottom. Can you see that little puddle of liquid in there? Yeah, that's the nitrogen and the oxygen. And until that little puddle's gone, we'll see a little bit of snow, which is carbon dioxide. Dry ice, dry snow. And see, it's all back now. You wouldn't want to put your hand in that, right? Well, actually, if you put it in real fast, it's okay because it boils and the liquid never touches your hand. But I'm going to give you a chance to experience liquid nitrogen up close and personal. How personal? I'm going to let you put some in your mouth.
I love liquid nitrogen potatoes.
What I'm going to do is use a special liquid nitrogen sauce for Cheetos. Cheetos are so much foamy food that it doesn't put very much stuff close to your skin. And the honor students are going to help be my minions to help serve these. They're going to have to hold the pans by the corners.
I ate those.
So I'll put some in here. And we'll put some sauce on. Now, to eat these safely, your mouth is good at warming them up because of the saliva. Your fingers are not good at warming them up, so you want to have them in your fingers a minimum amount of time. And your mouth warms them up better if it's juicy. That's a polite way of saying make a little bit of spit, right? And then you pop it in your mouth and You chew it with your mouth slightly open so that the fog can escape and you'll look like a dragon. If you're really brave, you can seal your lips and the cold gases will rush around your soft palate and the fog will come out your nose, right? Okay. So we're going to send people out, so handle it by the corners. You may have to put it down periodically, let your fingers warm up. Yeah. Here's Tanya. She was in my class last fall.
Move forward. No moving forward. It's going to come to you. Otherwise, everybody's going to be squished at that table there.
Cheese ball.
Okay. Oh boy. Here's Sarah. She was in my classes last fall. Uh-oh. Got gang tackled. Okay. It feels weird, doesn't it? And it comes out completely dry. I think we better do some fire. Okay. Okay. Let's get ready for some fire. Let's see. Yeah, this gets cold, doesn't it? All right. Good. I brought 3 fire tricks besides the artillery shells. One of them is a trick that the Forest Service uses to start fires from helicopters. When it's too dangerous to have personnel on the ground because it's so steep, or they have a fire coming towards some place that they need to light a backfire but don't want to put firefighters in harm's way, they use what they call ping pong balls. They look like ping pong balls. They're just 2 little plastic hemispheres that they put a little bit of potassium permanganate inside of and snap together. Then they go in a hopper, and there's a bank of needles that punches a line of these balls and squirts antifreeze in. And about a minute later, it bursts into flame. So I thought we'd do a ping pong ball reaction. This is bigger than a ping pong ball, so it'll be a little bit bigger fire. Here's the potassium permanganate. It's a brownish purple powder. And this is glycerin, which is chemically related to antifreeze. I had this sitting on the lab shelf and I know that it works. So I put the glycerin on. You see, I just started a fire. I just started a fire in that can. But it takes a while to get going. So the ball has a chance to drop out the side of the helicopter, fall through the air, land in the needles underneath the trees, and then it'll burst into flame and start a fire. So they've used these in a number of different settings. It takes a while for that to, well, here we go. See, about a minute. Woo! Is that hot enough to start a fire? You bet. If you do that on one of the projector stands in your lecture hall, it'll blister the top of it. How do I know? Don't ask. I didn't have a big enough hot pad underneath it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a blob of lava. It's going to be real lava, And it's going to be at about 2,500 degrees. Don't try this at home, right? 2,500 degrees doesn't sound like temperature you'd like to have around your house. This is a trick that they would have a tough time doing at Bozeman in the same way that I can do it here. I call it grizz lava. You see why? It's made out of chemicals that are grizz colors. The maroon, that's iron oxide, and the silver, that's powdered aluminium. I had to learn how to say that different too when I was in New Zealand. I'm going to put these two powders together in a little paper cone. It's actually the corner of an envelope cut off. It says New Zealand Post inside. I'll put that red powder in. This red powder is iron oxide, iron 3 oxide. It's called hematite when it's in a chunk in the ground. It's used to make rouge, to make your cheeks look red. It's used to make red barn paint. And then powdered aluminum is, of course, what you'd get if you powdered a drink can. The aluminum wants to hold on to oxygen more than the iron does. So if I melt a little bit of this, the oxygen will jump quickly from the iron to the aluminum and release a huge amount of heat because it likes to hold on to the aluminum better. It will leave the iron behind all by its lonesome. It'll be hot enough that it'll be liquid iron. So I've got a bed of sand here that I'm going to put this mixture in so that I don't burn a hole in the table. I'm mixing the dry ingredients just like you do with scones or muffins. Say this is cooking. Just wouldn't want to eat a ball of lava. We'll make a little pit in the bottom of the can. The can has sand in it. This isn't a bad recipe for lava. Iron and aluminum and oxygen are some of the most abundant elements in the Earth's crust. I did say I have to melt a little bit of it. So I'm going to build a little bit of a magnesium fire on top. Remember, I am the great and powerful gee whiz, and that's the powder that I'm using there. I'm going to make it burn a little hotter by putting some barium peroxide in. That gives it extra oxygen, a little bit more magnesium. When I light this, it's going to get very hot, throw some sparks in the air. I'll tip the can with the tongs so that you can see the puddle of lava at the bottom. And then we'll cool off that lava in a little beaker in some water. It'll hiss and gurgle and growl because it's a lot of heat to get rid of. Now I know what the Shakespeare in the Park people are up against with the bell. They say, "Hello, Missoula!" I'd love to go to that. All right, so we'll light this up. We'll see a quick flash of light, and in just a matter of a second or two, we're going to have a pool of lava down there in the bottom of the can. And then I'll fish it out with my tongs so you can see it. We'll cool it in the water. Well, after it's cool, it usually has a frothy, slaggy outside coating, which is iron and oxygen, and inside is a little bead of iron that's now solid because we cooled it off. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, fire in the hole. Fire on the board. This is really hot down in there, see? Can you see how hot that is? See it back there? Well, I think the, let me see if I can, this was powder when I put it in. Now it's a chunk of lava. See? Very hot. We're going to cool it off. Listen to it gurgle. Best way to heat up a cup of coffee. Whoa, that's hot. Above boiling. Boy, it's really spitting water out. It had a little pit that the water's going into and then spraying up. Cool down a little bit more now. So while that's cooling off just a titch more, we'll get the volcano out here. Lava comes from a volcano, right? This is my volcano powder. It's called benzoyl peroxide. It's also used as pimple medicine. So we're going to get rid of this pimple, right? So if you've heard of Oxy 5 and Oxy 10, well, this is Oxy 100. It's a solid rocket propellant. In a single molecule, it has fuel at the ends and oxygen in the middle. If you looked at a model of the molecule, here's what it looks like. Black and white, that's fuel. You see the ends are fuel, hydrocarbons. White is hydrogen, black is carbon. In the middle, you have oxygen. And when oxygen hold hands, not a good deal. They don't like to hold hands. So if you give them a chance to not hold hands, they will not hold hands. This has two of the three things in the fire triangle. You need fuel, oxygen, and heat. Some of you may have heard my wife's fireworks lessons. She works for the Forest Service and has put together that fireworks trunk. We'll provide some heat here. I'm going to stay low, take my hat off. Three, two, one, fire in the hole. Can we try it again? Okay. I was very disappointed when I got to New Zealand to find out this is manufactured in the U.S. and it is not shippable in large quantities overseas. What did I have to do? When I wasn't in schools visiting, I was in the lab making this powder from scratch. So we'll do it again. If there's no wind, it blows a great smoke ring, but too much wind. Doing it close to Hellgate Canyon doesn't usually work. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Fire in the hole. Okay. Now I did bring one more thing before we start the fireworks. Maybe I can have a couple of the Honors Student Association people help me out. I've never made this big a sign for invisible ink. You want to come over here and hold the other end? Now you can see. Whoa, look how big this is. You want to come help me make the sign show up? Can you squirt? Go up there and squirt where you see some writing. Oh, it looks like a wizard. Does he have a beard? I know who that is. Gee whiz. Okay, let's let somebody else do the next part. Want to come up and squirt the next part? I won't get close to that speaker. Right next to the wizard, start spraying.
We can't see you right.
Oh, yeah, so step back a little bit. Step back. Step back so you're not so close. Let's step back so we're not so close. So we can get a lot of it all at once. Oh, gee whiz loves. You want to help? You can go with him. Don't get too close. Stay way back and spray a fine spray. Oh. Okay, keep going. Move to the right. Missoula. Hello, Missoula. You can do the next word. Wanna, right? Yeah, very good. So you can do the and Grizz. Don't get too close. Give it a fine spray. And Grizz. All right. I've had a wonderful time here. What I've been tempted to do is morph that Grizz, change the R to a W. Think I'd get in trademark trouble? Probably. Well, now I think my helper and I are going to go down to the center of the oval. You can just swivel where you are here. You need to be back 100 feet. We're going to shoot off 24 shells to celebrate my 24 years here.
Is that rolling? Is that rolling? I think we're at a good view. Yeah, look at this.
Fire in the hole! Thank you to the Honor Student Association for arranging this whole thing.
Sure.
Something I can't remember.
British Isles.
I know. Thank you.
Scotland, I would say.
I'm also what? I'm also what?
No, sorry. My daughter is
You want to come in too? All right.
okay, thank you.
You bet. Oh, look at this is a Hogwarts student. Which house are you in? Looks like I'm pretty happy with that. Super